I recently received some disappointing and shocking news, which caused me to experience quite a lot of dysregulation as I was processing what I'd found out and how I was feeling about it. And so I made a record of all the different things that I did to support myself to meet my dysregulation and to help soothe myself back into a regulated state. And I want to share that in this video today. And I'm not doing that because this is advice on what you should do. It's just what I did in order to support myself during this time, and I thought that would be insightful for you. So as this is a trauma-informed video, I want to invite you to remember that you can pause this video at any time and come back and continue the learning when you have the capacity to do so. Even though this video isn't directly related to talking about trauma, it is talking about dysregulation, and I am going to share some of the dysregulating sensations that I experienced and what I have done to soothe that and support that experience. And that can activate some sensations in our own system listening about that. So if it feels too much, go ahead and pause this video. So in a recent video, I spoke about how we need to meet our body, we need to meet our dysregulation where we're at and not try to fix it. And that's great to aim for, but often it's not actually super easy to do in the moment. And I caught myself trying to fix my dysregulation recently and had to come back and allow myself just to meet it and to experience and to hold space for what I was experiencing. So let's get started. So first of all, when I found out this news, it was a surprise, it was a shock to me, and I instantly felt that sensation of being punched in the gut. So I instantly felt my stomach contract and my abdomen brace, and me to feel like a surge of anxiety and light panic. This fits with my dysregulation patterns in the past. I've always experienced a lot of bracing, a lot of tension, and then as a result a lot of digestive issues and IBS in the past. And so this is really common for me. So because I am aware of that, I was able to really sense the impact that this news was having on my nervous system in that moment. And I noticed that I was within the first 10-15 minutes of receiving this news, I actually could feel that I was fluctuating between anxiety and shutdown. So I was feeling a little bit numb and a little bit overwhelmed and spaced out and disconnected, and then I was feeling a little bit of panic, and then I would go back to feeling numb again, and then I was feeling panic again. Now I believe I have quite strong interoception, and I talk about interoception in the Trauma Foundations playlist that I've created here, and how interoception is really one of the most critical foundational things that we learn about and that we reconnect with in order to heal our nervous systems and to heal trauma and dysregulation. And interoception is our ability to hear, for want of a better word, feel what our body is experiencing. So I was able to feel this punch in the gut, and I was able to feel these sensations and notice my level of awareness, self-awareness with interoception is quite strong. So I clocked straight away within a few minutes that I was dysregulated and that I was going into a flight freeze survival state in this moment. Even though the news that I had received wasn't life-threatening, it was just a really big shock that my nervous system wasn't ready for. I felt a little bit blindsided, and it was a big surprise what this information was. So in that moment, I was around other people and I just brought my attention to my breath. So I just slowed my breath down into coherent breathing. So 6 counts in and 6 counts out. And then when I was able to leave that environment where I was around other people that I couldn't co-regulate with, I couldn't connect with those people, they weren't my people, I returned home and was able to, take up space make space for how I was feeling. And this is where I initially went to try and fix my nervous system. So I laid down on the bed and I did coherent breathing. Now I practice coherent breathing around about 3 times a day anyway, so it is my go-to and it is grounding for me. So I thought, okay, let's just lay down and go to our regular practice. And I think that was the right thing to do. And after about 30 minutes of coherent breathing, I realised that, why am I not regulated yet? What am I doing wrong? Why haven't I got this down? And then I was like, okay, because you're trying to fix the dysregulation and not just meet it and not just be present with it. Now, there was also some awareness in me that perhaps feeling my feelings so soon after receiving this news, there was something I picked up interoception wise that maybe it was too soon for me to do that. Maybe that the shocking news that I had received and the disappointment that I was feeling, maybe that was going to be too much for me to feel that in this space of dysregulation. So I decided not to do that. And knowing that I could do that later, and I didn't judge myself for that, I then decided to verbalize what I was feeling and the news that I'd heard and use EFT tapping. So I tapped on all of my acupuncture points around my body, and then I spoke aloud to myself about what had happened and how I was feeling about it. And I did this for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then I just gently moved back to coherent breathing again. I would say just more like deep breathing actually. And I noticed like, okay, yeah, I felt a little bit of relief about that, and I was like just verbalizing and connecting with how I was feeling instead of trying to fix it. But I noticed I still wasn't settling. And so I was like, right, okay, so the calming regulation activities aren't having the desired effect that I had hoped as much as I would have liked. What's my next go-to? I was like, okay, let's work with this anxiety. And so I decided to stand up and I shook it out for about 10 minutes. So I just really vigorously, gently at first actually, gently, and then built up the pace of shaking out my body from my top to my toes. So it's a good way. You can start with shaking and moving your head and then moving your shoulders and then your shoulder blades and pushing your arms out and shaking your wrists, and just move through the body. And you can explore circular motions, you can explore pulsing motions, you can explore vibrating motions, explore the different ways that you can shake out and lean into these different parts of the body. I did that for about 10 minutes, and then what was interesting to me after I did that, I took a stretch. I had some yawns. I need to yawn now. Oh, I need to yawn now. So allowing your body, interoception as well is about allowing your body, you listening to your body and you allowing yourself to do what it needs to do. So on these videos, if I need to yawn, I'm going to yawn, because if I don't and I suppress that, it's creating more dysregulation in my system. So sorry if you find that rude. Next, I realized after I'd shaken it out and I'd stretched, I felt like I needed a shower. My body told me I need some hot water, I need some warmth, I need some steam. So I went and I took a hot shower. And when I was in the hot shower, I felt the need to push against the wall. So I thought, okay, I think I've got a bit of anger here as well, a little bit of tension and frustration. So I was in the hot shower and I pushed up against the wall about 6 or 7 times as hard as I could. I didn't overdo it. I then allowed myself to relax in the shower. I also, this is another thing, I kept the lighting very low. So I had a shower with the light on in the hall, but not on in the shower room. So I kept the lighting very low and not to add to any overstimulation of my senses. After the hot shower, I sat down on the edge of the bed, stared into space for a little bit, and I realised I was hungry. And so that to me was a great sign, because what had been going on for an hour and a half, I think it had been since I'd found out the news, maybe 2 hours, is that I'd gone into survival mode, which disconnects from rest and digest. So we go into this sympathetic nervous system state and we cut off the parasympathetic state, or that's reduced to a minimum, in order to prepare us for what action we need to take to survive, even though it wasn't a life-threatening moment. And when I realized I'm hungry, I was like, okay, great. This is like now my parasympathetic, my rest and digest is wanting to come back on board. So I made myself something to eat. And after I ate, I felt the need to sleep. And again, I welcomed this and I laid down and slept for a few hours. And again, my rest and digest system coming back on board. But that wasn't the end of it. So I woke up and I was like, whew, that was a period of time that was quite intense. How am I feeling now? So I checked in with what I was feeling. I was like, okay, I'm feeling a lot more grounded, but I do recognize that my experience prior to my sleep was quite intense, and perhaps it's not really over yet. So what can I do to support myself today? And my go-to was eat eat and drink the foods that I find most grounding. So I'm currently it's February 2026 and I am currently living in Vietnam. And so I decided I was going to go to a local cafe that sold English food, and I had a cup of English breakfast tea and some beans on toast. This is the most simple grounding food from my childhood and from my culture. And it went down a treat. It went down really, really well. And this is my go-to when I am dysregulated. So I ate the grounding food. After the food, I decided to take a long walk. So I walked for, well, I say long, you can only walk so far in Hanoi. I walked about 4 kilometers around the lake, and obviously being around a huge body of water is also quite relaxing and regulating, and but walking in it as well is extremely grounding and regulating activity for the nervous system. I didn't have my headphones in, I just focused on my breath, moved with patience and compassion for myself, and took this walk. And then when I returned home, I decided to call a friend to help with some co-regulation. So I haven't made a video on the polyvagal ladder yet, but I will be doing so soon, and that will be going into the trauma-informed foundations playlist. So if you're watching this after February, then it's highly likely that that video will be in there. But what I can see is that I was moving up and down this polyvagal ladder because one of the the things that we are able to do as we are coming into more regulation is that we have a desire to connect with others, a desire to socialize and to share and to talk with other people. And I hadn't had that desire up until that point. So I came back and I spoke with a friend and shared with a friend what had happened, and that friend is safe and was very empathetic and very supportive, and that was a really lovely grounding experience. And after that it still wasn't over, because I did sit with myself for a little while and allow myself to just feel what I was feeling now. If you remember at the beginning of this, I thought to myself, I don't have the capacity to feel my feelings at the point of the height of the dysregulation. That didn't feel like it was going to be something I was going to be able to hold. It felt too intense. But after the conversation with my friend, and all the things I'd done in the morning, I was able to kind of like, okay, let's just sit and see what I'm feeling now. And what came up was grief. So I felt a wave of grief and sadness. And I just allowed myself to feel that for a few minutes. I didn't really do anything with it. I put my hand on my heart, actually. I put my hand on my heart, and I can remember now, I gently swayed from side to side, just very gently. I think this was only for about 5 or 6 minutes. I then needed to sleep again. So I felt very, very tired, and then I took another nap and slept for 3 hours. And when I woke up this time, I felt a lot more grounded, and I decided I was a lot more present as well. So I looked around my apartment and I was like, oh, okay, I think I need a little bit of a reset. So something else that I did was that I put on a TV show on Netflix that I find is regulating. I know the TV show very well. I've watched it multiple times because I use it as a regulation tool as well. I've watched it multiple times, and there's no violence in this TV show. It's a light comedy and it's very easygoing. So I was like, okay, I'm going to put that on in the background, low level. And then I tidied my apartment. Now, I needed a reset. I needed an environmental reset. My apartment was a little bit messy after I'd made this to eat and I'd taken that shower and I'd come home and dumped my stuff and, was just dealing with the dysregulation that I was feeling. And I was able to look around and I was like, okay, let's have a reset. So I lit a candle, I lit some sage, I cleaned, tidied up, reset the apartment, and that also felt extremely regulating. And so now it is about 24 hours after I got this news, and I do feel a tiny little bit on the lower side. So I don't 100% feel like, yes, I'm back. And that's fine. I've just had a very tender and sensitive experience, and so I'm holding space for myself. But a friend has invited me this evening to go to a gig, and the band that are playing are super fun. And I thought to myself, I had this intuition that actually this could be a good idea for me tonight. I feel like I need to connect with somebody, and also I feel like I need some upregulating, and I'm doing it to see how I feel. I'm not sure if it's going to be the right thing or not, but I'm willing to give it a go and to not judge myself for if it doesn't meet my expectations, and trust that I can take care of myself if I don't get that desired result. But I'm pretty confident that a dance with my friends tonight and some music is a good shout for me, not necessarily for you. None of these things are necessarily for you. I'm just explaining my experience. Take what resonates and leave the rest. So to conclude, regulating your nervous system isn't something that is necessarily done quickly. It really depends on the amount of stress that is already in the system and the amount of stress that's coming from the new stressor. Okay, so while I would have loved to have felt loads better after 30 minutes of coherent breathing, which was the first thing that I did, and that not working, it was really important that I just met my nervous system where it was at and did not try and force regulation. Yes, I did a lot of things to support myself during this time, but my goal, my objective of how I was meeting what I was feeling changed, and that was important, and that is part of helping to regulate your nervous system, meeting yourself with compassion, meeting yourself with patience, meeting yourself with care, and not judging yourself for how you're feeling or how long you are feeling it for. And this experience was about me staying present with what I was feeling and reconnecting with my interoception and responding with care, and just allowing myself, my body, to settle in its own time, knowing full well that I was supporting it and here for it. So I hope that you found this video insightful. Please let me know if you have any questions, any thoughts, any concerns in the comments section below. If you've liked this video or found it helpful, consider sharing it with a friend and giving it a like and subscribing to the channel. My name is Donna Louise, and I'm a trauma-trained somatic practitioner, a functional breathwork coach, a clinical EFT practitioner, and also training to be a counsellor. And I help people to get out of survival mode, restore their nervous system, and to reconnect with themselves, which I think today's video has shown in a nutshell. Thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.